Mr. Prime Minister, thank you so much for joining us today. Let me start by asking you about the state of global education and what you hope to achieve with this fund.
I think every parent will be shocked by the figures that there's 260 million children of school age who are not going to school today, and they're not going to go to school any day. There are 400 million children who never get education beyond the age of 11. And there's 800 million, and that's half the world's children, who leave school without any qualifications, and they're not fitted for the workforce of tomorrow. The real worry is that by 2030, which is the year we're supposed to have every single child in school because of the Sustainable Development Goals, that figure will still be 800 million, and there will still be 200 million children not going to school. Now, if we don't do anything about it, we will not be able to solve this huge problem of illiteracy and a problem of an uneducated half of the world. But if we do something about it with this proposal today, then we can actually look forward to meeting the Sustainable Development Goal that every child is at school.
So this proposal right now is about a consortium of donors and multilateral development banks. Explain to us a little bit about the mechanism of this.
So we want to raise 10 billion, and that would dramatically transform the possibilities of getting education to people who don't have it at the moment. And what we're asking is donor countries who've got money who can give aid to give guarantees. We want to do as the World Bank does, and that's to leverage up these guarantees into a fund that is based on loans. And then we want to have what's called a buy-down facility, so you convert the loans into low-interest loans or credits where necessary to meet the conditions of individual countries who are trying to make education work. What we need is these countries to be committed themselves. They've got to invest in education, otherwise there's no point in the rest of the world doing it for them. But the combination of the two, we think, can create about 200 million school places.
So how much in guarantees and grants are we talking about?
So let's say we had 2 billion of guarantees, and that's maybe shared between 20 or 10 potential volunteer contributors. That is leveraged up into 6, 7 or potentially a bit more of money in a fund. And then we have a 2 billion buy-down facility, which is made up of grants from aid donors, and we get very close to a 10 billion fund. Now that's 10 billion of extra resources for education, and if you're a country giving grants in aid, you get 4 times as much bang for your buck. By spending 2 billion on grants, you're getting about 4 times as much resources invested in education. So it's very good value for money for the aid budget. We can't solve the problem without aid, but we can't solve the problem without education, with education aid alone.
So the key issue right now would be selling this plan to countries. Who have you spoken to so far?
The World Bank and the regional development banks from Asia to Latin America to Europe or Africa are now supporting this proposal that came out of a very highly regarded commission. And now we're talking to donors. So we're talking to European donors, we're talking to Asian donors, we're talking to America, we're talking to Canada. Now, the good thing about this is it can go ahead with a number of initial pioneer contributors. We don't need to wait for every single potential donor to say yes. But we think, just as we did a facility for vaccination and immunization, and you may know that the success in vaccinating 500 million children in the last 10 years, 5 million lives saved, we did this in exactly the same way. We asked volunteers to come forward. We were successful. It started with 6, it then went to 10, and there are some more now. And this is the way this will work. Voluntary contributions, donors asked to be involved. If people choose not to be involved, that's not a veto. It just means that we have one less contributor.
How involved are young people themselves?
Well, this is what's amazing, because we've seen around the world young people speaking out on safe schools in America after the gun tragedy, and that was so impressive. But you're also seeing it in India, where young people have come together in this huge march to oppose child marriage and say that every girl should have the chance to go to school. So today we've got an extra 1.5 million signatures, and this time they've come from Pakistan and Bangladesh young people, and that adds to the 10 million signatures we've already got. So 11 million young people and more, 11.5 million young people are demanding change. And that is a momentum for a better world that is not going to stop. And I see young people becoming more of a voice for change. And indeed, they may shame the older generation by saying, why, when you had the chance, did you not deliver education to every child? You made promises from 1948 onwards, and there are still 260 million children not at school. These young people are shocking us and forcing us into taking the action that's necessary.
Finally, Mr. Prime Minister, I can't let you go without asking you about the state of affairs in the UK. Last year, you've said that you didn't advocate for a second referendum back then. How about now?
What I have always said is that the Brexit vote was something that I regretted a great deal. But you know, in a world where cooperation is falling down between Britain and Europe, between Iran and America, between China and America with the trade wars, the WTO, the World Trade Organization, not being able to get its act together. You know, what we're talking about today is a bright light in a pretty dark sky, that cooperation between these countries that I'm talking about and all the international institutions is at least working in one area where the educational community is coming together to say we need this new facility. So I'm not talking about other issues today. I'm talking about where you can persuade people that international cooperation can work. Perhaps we can make a breakthrough. And if we make this breakthrough on education, then millions of children will benefit. And it will be a signal that global cooperation actually does work.
If the Brexit divorce doesn't go according to plan, how would it affect the UK economy, including policies such as education?
Well, I'm not going to talk about Brexit today. I'll be honest with you. If I start talking about something else, then the whole weight of my argument that we need to give attention. You see, what we've got is a chronic problem of illiteracy across the world. And it's one of the most intractable problems that is being dealt with today by one of the most innovative solutions to pursue and to attain what has been a very elusive goal. We can be the first generation in history where we can say every child goes to school, but we need to take the extraordinary measures that we're recommending today.
Just one last one. Are you involved on Brexit at all right now?
Of course I'm involved in what's happening.
With groups behind
Of course I'm involved with what's happening in Britain, and you would expect me to be so, just as I was involved when there was a referendum on Scotland's role in the United Kingdom. But my role today is as UN Special Envoy for Education, reporting to Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General, whom I'm just about to meet in a few minutes.
Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.